Reach Freddy. Going Batty. By Abby Klein, illustrated by John McKinley. Chapter 1. Wake up, sleepyhead. Brian. My alarm clock rang loudly in my ear. It can't be morning already, I said, opening one eye. I just fell asleep. I rolled over to grab the alarm clock and turn it off, but I fell out of bed and hit the floor with a thud. Brian. The alarm kept ringing. Hey, shark breath, turn that thing off, my sister, Susie, yelled from the other room. I got up on my hands and knees, grabbed the clock, and threw it across the room. It bounced off my dresser and crashed to the floor. The back of it opened up and the batteries fell out, but at least it stopped ringing. Finally! Susie yelled. I lay down on the floor and closed my eyes. I was so tired I didn't think I could climb back into my bed. Just then my mom opened my door and ran in. What's going on in here, Freddy? I was downstairs making breakfast, and I heard a loud crash in your room. She looked around, but she didn't see me lying on the floor. Freddy? Where are you? I'm down here, Mom, I said. On the floor next to my bed. Oh my goodness, Freddy. Are you all right? My mom said as she rushed over to me. I'm fine, Mom. Are you hurt? Is your arm broken? Freddy's arm is broken? Susie asked, running into the room with her toothbrush in her hand. Let me see. My arm is not broken. I yelled. You don't have to yell, Susie said. What are you doing on the floor, then, ding-dong? Here. Let me help you up, said my mom, reaching at her hand. She pulled me up, and we sat down on the bed together. Now, why in the world were you sleeping on the floor? I wasn't sleeping on the floor. I fell out of bed when my alarm went off. But I also heard a crash, said my mom. Like something broke. That would be the alarm clock, Susie said, pointing to the pieces of broken clock on my floor. Freddy, what happened to the clock? Asked my mom. Ely tell you what happened to it, said Susie. Freddy threw it across the room. It hit his dresser and broke into a bunch of pieces. Thanks a lot, I whispered to Susie. You're welcome, she whispered back with a big smile on her face. Freddy, said my mom, why would you throw your clock across the room? Because I just wanted it to stop ringing so I could go back to sleep, I said with a big yawn. But it's a school day, said my mom. You have to get up and go to school. Do I have to? I said, yawning again. I lay back down on the bed. That is so not fair, said Susie. I never get to stay home just because I'm tired. Toothpaste started dripping out of her mouth. Who said anything about staying home, said my mom. And I think you need to go rinse out your mouth before any of that toothpaste drips on the carpet. Susie put her hand up to her mouth to catch the dripping toothpaste and ran off to the bathroom. As soon as Susie left, my dad walked into the room. Is everything all right up here? Your mom came to check on you, but she never came back down. I was starting to get worried. Everything is fine, Daniel, said my mom. Then why isn't Freddy getting dressed and ready for school? I pulled the covers over my head. I'm too tired to go to school. Too tired, said my dad. Too tired, said my mom. But, Freddy, why are you so tired? You went to bed early last night. I know, I said from under the covers, but I keep hearing these strange noises, and I can't sleep. Oh no! Not this again, my dad said. I thought we took care of the vampire nightmares with the dream police. It's not a vampire, Dad, I said. I think it's a monster. A monster, Susie said, laughing. Go away! I yelled. No one invited you back into the room. But I just have to hear about this monster, Susie said, giggling. Does he live under your bed or in your closet? For your information, he doesn't live in either of those places, brat. He lives in the attic. The attic? Susie said. That's a good one, Freddy. The attic? Asked my dad. There is nothing in that attic except a lot of old junk. I don't think there is anything up there that a monster would like, said my mom. Besides, said my dad, the dream police will take care of the monster if there is one. They can get rid of any nightmare. But it's not a nightmare. It's a real monster, I said. And the dream police can't get up to the attic. Ely, tell you what, said my dad, pulling the covers off my head. We can talk about this more later, but right now you need to get up, get dressed, and get ready for school. Let's go, sleepyhead, said my mom. I don't want you to miss the bus. Can't I just stay home and sleep? Please cease. No, said Susie. I stuck my tongue out at her. Who asked you? I said. Enough, you two, said my dad. You both need to get moving or you're going to be late. Hop to it. My dad lifted me out of bed and carried me into the bathroom. Splash some water on your face. That should wake you up. I want to see you downstairs in 5 minutes. You will be in big trouble if you miss your bus. Yes, Dad, I mumbled. Chapter 2: Who's Afraid of Monsters? I ran out my front door just as the bus pulled up. Phew, that was lucky, I thought. I dragged myself up the steps of the bus, walked slowly up the aisle, and sat down next to my best friend, Robbie. Are you okay? Robbie asked. You look terrible. Gee, thanks, I said. I'm fine. I just didn't get enough sleep last night. But I thought you said your mom wasn't going to let you stay up to watch that shark program on TV. She didn't. Then why are you so tired? Monsters. Monsters? Said Robbie. Yeah, monsters, I said. Just then Chloe turned around in her seat and said, Would you two please stop talking about monsters? You're scaring me. You're such a baby, said Max, the biggest bully in the whole first grade. Monsters are cool. No, they are not, said Chloe. And besides, my Nana told me there is no such thing as monsters. My abuela, my grandma, told me the same thing, said my friend Jessie. Well, guess what? I said. They are real, and one of them is living in my attic. That's a good one, Freddy, said Robbie, laughing. I'm not kidding, I said. There really is a monster up in my attic. No, there isn't, said Robbie. Yes, there is, I said. What does he look like? Asked Max. Does he have 3 eyes and horns on his head? Stop it! Stop it right now, Chloe said, covering her ears. You are scaring me. I'm going to tell on you. Have you ever seen him? Asked Jessie. No, I said. Then how do you know he's there? Asked Robbie. He makes all these weird noises, I said. Cool, said Max. Like what? Stop it! Stop it! Chloe yelled again. Be quiet, you little princess, said Max. Why don't you just go sit in another seat? I think I will. Then I won't have to be near you, Mr. Stinky Max Sellers, Chloe said, and she stuck out her tongue at Max. Max started laughing and pointing at Chloe. You look like a frog, he said. Actually, a big, ugly, wet toad. Wah! Chloe wailed. She picked up her frilly pink princess backpack and moved to a seat near the front of the bus. Now that she's gone, said Max, tell me what kind of noises it makes. Well, I said, sometimes I hear this scratching sound, like this, scratch. Scratch. Then he must have claws. Really big claws. Maybe, I said. Yeah, said Max, and he's scratching on the attic door because he wants to come out. I felt a shiver run down my back, but I didn't want Max to think I was scared. Did you ever notice any scratch marks on your attic door? Asked Jessie. No, I said. But I think the monster just started living in my attic a few days ago. What other kinds of noises do you hear? Asked Max. Kind of like a screaming, squeaking sound, I said, like this, eek, eek. You probably just have mice running around in the attic, said Robbie. They can scratch and squeak. I think I know what a mouse sounds like. I said. I'm not dumb. Do you hear any other noises? Asked Jessie. Sometimes I hear a weird thumping. Wow. Really? Said Max. He must be really huge. That thumping must be him walking around on his big feet. Now I was starting to get really scared. Did you go up to your attic to check it out? Asked Max. No, I said. Why not? Because I bet you're too scared, said Max. That's it. Baby Freddy is too scared. I am not. I lied. Oh, yes, you are, said Max. You are a little chicken. Max started to flap his arms and make clucking sounds. Cluck, cluck, cluck. No, he's not, said Jessie. Jessie was the only one brave enough to stand up to Max. Then why can't he tell us what the monster looks like, said Max. Because Freddy just hasn't had time to check it out yet. Right, Freddy? Asked Jessie. Yeah, right, I said. I couldn't tell Max that I hadn't checked it out because I was too scared. He would call me a baby for the rest of my life. Well then, Freddy can check it out this weekend and tell us all about it next week, said Max. I gulped. Yeah. Sure thing, I said. Max would never know if I actually went up to the attic. I could just pretend that I did. I could just make up a story next week about what the monster looked like. And no pretending, said Max. I want to see a picture of this thing, so you'd better take your camera with you. Oh boy. Now I was really in trouble. There was no way I was ever going to stay in that attic long enough to take a picture of a monster. I would have to tell Max the truth, that I was just a big fraidy cat. But before I could say anything, Jessie answered for me. No problem, said Jessie. If there is a monster in his attic, then Freddy will have that picture for you next week. Right, Freddy? I gulped again. Yeah, right. Chapter 3. Going Batty. I was glad that bus ride was finally over. All that talk of monsters was really scaring me. I walked slowly to class. What are you going to do now? Asked Robbie. I don't know, I moaned. I think I'm in big trouble. Well, maybe I can help you, said Robbie. You can? I said. I just have to get my mom to let me sleep over at your house, and then we can go monster hunting together, said Robbie. That would be awesome, I said. You're the best friend ever. We had reached the classroom, so we went in, put away our stuff, and sat down on the rug. Good morning, boys and girls, said our teacher, Mrs. Whooshy. Since Halloween is coming up, I thought it would be fun if we learned about some spooky creatures. Like monsters? Said Max. Oh no. Here we go again, I whispered to Robbie. No. 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 Chloe screamed. She put her fingers in her ears and started jumping around. I do not want to talk about monsters. It's okay, Chloe. Calm down, said Mrs. Whooshy. We are not going to be talking about monsters. There is no such thing as monsters. Oh, yes, there is, I thought. How about witches? Asked Jessie. No, we are not going to talk about witches, said Mrs. Whooshy. Too bad, said Chloe. I wanted to learn how to turn Max into a donkey. Max jumped up and started waving an imaginary wand in Chloe's direction. I'll turn you into a lizard, said Max. No, you won't, said Chloe. Yes, I will, said Max abracadabra. Stop it right now, you two, said Mrs. Whooshy. That is enough. Max, you go sit over there, and, Chloe, you sit over here. I don't want to hear another word from the two of you. After they sat back down, Mrs. Whooshy said, I thought it would be fun if we learned about real creatures, such as bats and spiders. I love bats and spiders, said Robbie. Today we are just going to learn about bats, said Mrs. Whooshy. They are very interesting animals. Does anyone know anything about bats? Of course, Robbie raised his hand. He is a science genius, and he knows everything about animals. Bats are the only mammals that fly. Excellent, Robbie, said Mrs. Whooshy. That is correct. Birds fly, said Max, and they are animals. But birds are not mammals, said Mrs. Whooshy. Most mammals' babies are born alive. They do not hatch from eggs. And all baby mammals drink their mother's milk. I know something, said Jessie. Bats hang upside down. One time I saw a picture of a whole bunch of bats hanging upside down in a cave. Good, said Mrs. Whooshy. What else? They live in trees or caves, I said. And sometimes they even live in your attic, said a girl named Ava. My grandma used to have bats living in her attic. Does anyone know what bats eat? Asked Mrs. Whooshy. They suck your blood, said Max. They bite your neck with their big fangs and suck out the blood. He opened his mouth and pretended to bite the air. Ew. That is disgusting, said Chloe. I think I'm going to be sick. You'd better watch out, said Max. When Dracula leaves his castle at night, he turns into a bat. He might fly into your room and drink your blood. Stop it! Stop it, Max, yelled Chloe. I was starting to get a little freaked out myself. Calm down, Chloe, said Mrs. Whooshy. Dracula is not real. He is just a character in a story, and there is only one kind of bat that drinks blood. That is the vampire bat, and it does not live in the United States. Really? Asked Jessie. I thought all bats drank blood. Most people think that, said Mrs. Whooshy, because of the Dracula story. That's why people are so afraid of bats. But they are really very gentle. Then what do they eat? I asked. Most bats eat fruit or insects, said Mrs. Whooshy. The bats that live around here eat insects. Yuck, said Chloe. I once ate an insect, said Max. When I was little, I picked up a cricket and popped it in my mouth. It was really crunchy. I bet he ate more than one, Jessie whispered to me. Yuck, yuck, yucky, yuck, said Chloe. You are gross, Max. People don't like to eat bugs, said Robbie, but I'm glad bats do. Why? I asked. Because if we didn't have bats, we would have way too many insects on our planet. Robbie is right, said Mrs. Whooshy. If you think the mosquitoes are bad in the summer, imagine what it would be like if we didn't have bats to eat them. I don't think I want to imagine that, I said. Yeah, said Jessie, I'm getting itchy just thinking about it. So bats are really important to people and the planet Earth, said Mrs. Whooshy. That's why we need to take care of them and protect them. I know something else about bats, I said. Great, said Mrs. Whooshy. What is it? Bats are nocturnal. Who remembers what that means? Asked Mrs. Whooshy. It means that they are awake at night and asleep in the day, said Jessie, just like owls. And mice, I said. That is right, said Mrs. Whooshy. And because they have to fly at night,